Well, Jim, have you paid the price for a sloppy first half performance here today, do you think?
Perhaps. You know, it depends what you mean by sloppy. Yeah, there were some poor techniques. There were a couple of lads were a little bit off the pace in terms of mentally, physically, maybe the sharp technical stuff that we had from the other night. So there was a lot of little bits like that, and then we got to a stage where if they got the goal, then we didn't respond to that. We kind of like went backwards a bit, and then they got the second goal, and from that then I thought it was going to be, I couldn't wait for half time to try and rejig things and see if we could do something that kept it a little bit simpler for them and tried to get them energy. Unfortunately we needed a goal to give them the energy that could have given us something out of the game.
You must be disappointed with the opening goal, obviously a long throw in, a flick on, it's fairly routine stuff, isn't it?
Well, I'm disappointed with Sam Minahan, and the ball comes to him and all he has to do is duck. And let the ball run out of play, and he helps it on. And I've said to the lads that the opposition don't have to work hard on our back four. We've seen instances in the second half where they put the ball on top of us and they get a cheap set play out of us. And then when you concede that, everybody says, "Oh well, he's not marking at the back four." Harry Winter's supposed to be marking, and for some reason he's free and he flicks it on for them. And then after that, then people are not marking, but they're responding to something from 10 yards away rather than responding to something from 40 yards away or 50 yards away and making good decisions. So it's a collective responsibility, because somebody before that gave the ball away, and we kicked the ball up the pitch, and we have a dead touch and get nicked the ball off us, and there was so much missing from tonight. And there were some people that, like I said, the 6-0 win on Tuesday night hid a lot of things. Hit a lot of things in certain players, but the whole energy of the team carried some passengers through that game. And like you said, when we took some players off and we changed a few things, you could see that people were found out a little bit. But today there was a couple of people that, like I said, we've been carrying for far too long, for too many games and for too many large parts of games. And
you substituted Sam midway through the first half. What have you said to him?
No. See, we took Sam off on Tuesday night because he felt he's crying. And that's where I need players to be a little bit more straight with me when they go from one game to the other. Whether an injury, an old injury, or the effects of an injury are taken away from them. I felt, whether he says it to me or not, whether he wasn't 100%. And we've seen it in recent weeks where he really hasn't had the power, the turbo that he's got. He didn't have the power to clear balls. He didn't have the power to get crosses in. And I've seen it for a couple of weeks now and being concerned. And I was really disappointed in myself because, you know, it's so difficult to change a winning team, and I probably would have been criticised if I'd made a couple of changes today and lost, and then people say, why are you tinkering with you know, everybody wants us to play a certain system. When we tried to keep the same team, the same system for this game, and it's not going to work. So we have to be far more adaptable, because we've got a kid on the bench, Dan Powell, who's a tremendous athlete, and I'm sure that if he would have been in Sam's position today, that he would have headed things clear, and he would have cleared things with much more purpose, and got us up the pitch and got some good crosses, and he certainly did that second half.
To make matters worse, you lost Clark, and he was down injured when the second goal went in. What is the issue? Obviously his knee. But
yeah, well, his kneecap flexed out, so he dislocated his kneecap. Now there's nothing too sinister in terms of being torn at the moment, but we are going to obviously have him x-rayed and scanned. But you know, I've seen it before in a young lad, and the knee's like out of place, but then as he's being carried off, it kind of finds its way back in. But it depends what sort of strain has been put on the ligaments. But the minimum, I think you're looking at 4 to 5 weeks where everything settles down and he gets to strengthen it back up. So it's a loss for us, because he's a big player for us.
You made some tactical changes at half-time, reshaped to a back three and put Dan Cowan in that back three. You must be encouraged by the second half showing that.
Well, effectively we were kind of trying to play with a back three in the first half. I mean, all right, we start with the 4 defenders, but one of them was supposed to step in and deal with parking, or the 10. and the arrangement of their front three caused the back four problems. And we had untold problems at Tamworth because we've got players who've got no tactical leadership and don't take responsibility for the organisation of opposition. Whether they played a wide three, 1-10 or 2-9s, or whether they played 2-9s and 1-10, they should be able to deal with three players. When you start dragging people like Jimmy Ball back and other people back to help them out, then you're going to lose some pressure everywhere else in the pitch, or lose the opportunity to, because we can't ask why people do half a job, we can't ask other people to do 1.5 or 2 jobs. Simple. So I asked players to take more responsibility for their own jobs and have a little bit more pressure up the pitch. Tried to keep it simple for us because I felt that we weren't really at the edge that we were on Tuesday night. And but you know, when the amount of balls from the keepers and the lads from the back that went out of play and just kept de-energising, we really couldn't create. We didn't have the quality coming up the pitch really to affect them. But when we did, I would have expected better from our front two. We were allowed to cheat up the pitch and make things happen. And
didn't stick up there at all, did it?
Well, you know, it doesn't have to stick, you know, but they should be playing each other quickly and getting at the back too. And you know, there was an incident in the first half that infuriated me at the start of the second half where I'm asking Harry Winter to get the ball into the front too quickly, and he has 8 touches and dumps it on Dan Keighren and nearly kicks out of play. And I'm thinking, well, that's not, you know, let's stop playing around with the ball and think we're good players and lend it to him and get it back and all that. You can do that when you're 4-0 up, but when you're 2-0 down, we need to get on the ball and play it into the centre forwards and let them play off each other, and then get some players like Matty Warburton and Jimmy Ball and Scott Duxbury attacking the back four. And when we did that, we created some pressure, we got some crosses in. The lads still need to learn what's a good cross and what set plays are going to be effective. And but there was loads of chinks today that but if we'd got a goal, I think we'd have found some energy to really put them under pressure.
Well, you did have a goal at the end of the first half. Well, what happened there? The own goal was chalked off. Well,
the linesman said there was a foul, but you know, like the referee thought it was a perfectly good goal. Fair enough if the lad was offside and the linesman, but the referee's 15 yards away and says it's a legit goal, and the linesman's 45 yards away. And what we've seen throughout this season so far is that too many instances where the linesman have just followed the referee and basically been told to just be linesmen, not assistant officials, but that was far too busy from him. I didn't see one appeal from their team. I didn't see one, even the player who supposedly got fouled, appealed for a foul. So bizarre decision, but like I said, maybe that's what you sometimes get away when you've got all that crowd behind a weak linesman.
In terms of any positives today, Adam Thomas coming on late on, he gave you an extra dimension. It was just lovely to see him out there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he was excellent on Wednesday night, the under-21s. It was a joy to watch him gliding up the pitch, and he was running past some flat-footed and mentally lethargic players, and so he looked extra special in terms of the energy he brought. But I brought him back probably earlier than he expected, but I think he's built his confidence in that game on Saturday, not just his physical and mental confidence, but he actually, the conditioning work that Nick Donnelly does with the lads, and the responsibility that Adam's done in terms of getting himself and keeping himself in good condition, because again Ben McKenna was out with his ankle, so it's just a shame because we didn't get a chance to use another sub because we had to, I felt, waste one with Sam Minahan, and obviously Clarkey, that's unavoidable. Probably turned out to be a good decision to have Smalley on the bench, but yeah, it was a positive one, and like I said, we're going to keep working with him to see if we can get involved in him, because he's certainly looking like he can add more to the team than some of the players that we haven't been able to replace at the moment. And so basically they're in the team by default, because if we want to play 2 or 3 strikers, they're in, because there's nobody really challenging them. Now there's going to be, with Adam Thomas and Ben McKenna coming back, and potential signings, there's going to be some pressure, and people are going to find themselves not just out of the team, but maybe out of the club.
And just finally, you've got that game at Telford on Tuesday. A very different proposition to York City. They're a lot younger side, obviously, aren't they? But they've been well beaten today at home by Harrogate. Does that give you any encouragement?
Yeah, I think they're in they're the kind of. I mean, I know the budget of York, I know the structures here, and this is a proper full-time setup, and Harrogate a proper full-time setup. It's going to be difficult to match these teams, not just over 90 minutes, but over the course of a season. The Nuneatons and the Telfords is a little bit different. They've took not a risk, they've took a a decision to go with young players that they can develop and grow into a team. And I don't think it's a risk. I think if you're going to go that way, and you know that each year you should get better players, and they'll grow into better players, and that's the way they've gone. So yeah, but the unfortunate thing is sometimes you get games like there where you don't have all the qualities that you need in the team. That, you know, it's all right going young and being full time, but you need to have players with tactical nous, and so I wouldn't read anything into our game or their game. I think though, on a summary of the first 10 games, I think we've been by and large excellent at home. We look like we've got energy, we look like we know how to play football, we can control games. I think away from home we look like we're carrying passengers, we don't look like we're equipped to be mean. I said we need to maybe strip away the home games and look at the league table, and then for away performances, and we'd be right down there. And if you're a team right down there, you need to learn how to be really difficult to beat, really solid, hard working, maximise your counter attacks, maximise your set plays, and let them, possession isn't everything, penetration, power play and quality set plays win your games. And that was the secret of what we did away from home last year, and we've lost that a little bit. And I need now to find two teams, a team that can play expansive football and control games and hurt opposition from all angles in certain games, mostly at home, but then away from home and against maybe teams that have a little bit more than us on the day, to be able to lock games up and get something out of it. And it all starts with clean sheets.
Terrific. Thanks for your time. Cheers, Jim.